Welcome to Tales of African Roots, where African magic begins.
In a land where the sun always kissed the earth with a warm golden glow, two lion cubs were born. The land, known as the Kingdom of Zamani, was a place of beauty and abundance. It stretched as far as the eye could see, with tall grasses swaying in the wind, mighty baobab trees standing like ancient guardians, and a sky that was a brilliant shade of blue. This was a land where the circle of life flowed like the great river that cut through its heart, bringing life to all who lived there. The first cub was named Mufasa. From the moment he was born, it was clear that Mufasa was special. His coat was a rich, golden color that shimmered in the sunlight, and his eyes were bright and curious. Mufasa's mother, Asali, was a proud and strong lioness. She watched over her son with great love and care, knowing that he was destined for greatness. As Mufasa grew, his mane began to sprout early, a sign of the powerful lion he would one day become. The second cub was named Jedi. He was smaller than Mufasa, with a sleek dark coat that made him almost invisible in the shadows. But what Jedi lacked in size, he made up for in spirit. His eyes were sharp and focused, always watching, always learning. Jedi's mother, Zuri, was a wise and gentle lioness. She taught her son the importance of patience and understanding, qualities that would serve him well as he grew. From the very beginning, Mufasa and Jedi were inseparable. They played together, explored the vast lands of Zamani, and learned the ways of their pride. The kingdom was their playground, and every day was an adventure. They would chase butterflies through the tall grasses, climb the ancient baobab trees, and race each other to the great river, laughing all the way. As they grew, they began to understand more about their world and their place in it. As the days passed in the kingdom of Zamani, Mufasa and Jedi's bond grew stronger. They were not just friends. They were brothers in every sense of the word. Wherever one went, the other followed. Mufasa, with his golden mane starting to show, was naturally seen as the leader among the young cubs. His strength and courage were admired by all, but Jedi, with his sleek dark coat, often felt like he was living in Mufasa's shadow. While the other cubs looked up to Mufasa, they often overlooked Jedi, not realizing the depth of wisdom and quiet strength he possessed. One quiet evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm orange glow across the savannah, Jedi and Mufasa lay side by side on a large flat rock. The day's adventures had worn them out, and they were content to watch the stars begin to twinkle in the darkening sky. Jedi, however, had something on his mind. After a long silence, he finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mufasa, do you ever wish you had a brother?" Mufasa turned to him, surprised by the question. "But Jedi, you are my brother," he replied, his voice full of warmth and sincerity. Jedi looked away, a little embarrassed. "I know, but sometimes I feel different, like I don't belong as much as you do." Mufasa frowned, thinking carefully before he spoke. "Jedi, you're just as much a part of this pride as I am. We are brothers, not just because we grew up together, but because we choose to be. It doesn't matter what others think. What matters is what we think of each other." Jedi looked into Mufasa's eyes and saw the truth in his words. In that moment, he realized that it didn't matter if others saw him as different. What mattered was the bond he shared with Mufasa. From that day on, Jedi's feelings of inadequacy began to fade, replaced by a determination to stand by his brother's side no matter what. As Mufasa and Jedi continued to grow, they were often guided by Eshe, a wise and gentle lioness who had seen many seasons in the kingdom of Zamani. Eshe was respected by all, not just for her wisdom, but for her deep understanding of the ways of the world. One day, she gathered Mufasa, Jedi, and the other young lions by the great river, its waters sparkling under the midday sun. "Today," she began, her voice calm and soothing, "I will teach you about the circle of life, for it is the most important lesson you will ever learn." The young lions listened intently as Aishi spoke of how all living things are connected. "We are all part of a great circle," she explained, "a circle that begins with the earth, which gives us life. The grass grows from the earth, the antelope eat the grass, and we, the lions, hunt the antelope. But when we die, our bodies return to the earth, and the circle begins again. This is the way of life, and it is our duty to respect it." Mufasa and Jedi absorbed her words, realizing that their place in the world was not just as hunters, but as protectors of the balance of life. Eshi then took them on a journey to a sacred place deep within the heart of the kingdom. It was a grove surrounded by ancient trees, their roots twisted and gnarled, telling stories of a time long past. In the center of the grove was a mound of stones, each one marked with the claw marks of lions who had come before them. "These are the graves of our ancestors," Eshi whispered, her voice filled with reverence. "They were the kings and queens of our pride, the guardians of the circle of life. One day, one of you may stand as the leader of our pride, and it will be your duty to protect this sacred balance." As the seasons changed, Mufasa and Jedi continued to grow in strength and wisdom. However, with their growth came new challenges. Mufasa, with his golden mane now full and impressive, began to attract the attention of not only the lionesses, but also the older lions of the pride. While some admired his strength and potential, others saw him as a threat. Whispers began to circulate among the pride, questioning whether Mufasa, with his unusual golden coat, truly belonged among them. These whispers reached Mufasa, and though he tried to ignore them, they weighed heavily on his heart. Jedi, ever loyal, remained by Mufasa's side, offering his quiet support. However, Jedi too had his struggles. Despite his fierce loyalty and growing strength, he often felt that he had to prove himself to the pride, especially to those who still saw him as the smaller, weaker cub. But Jedi was determined to show them that he was just as capable as Mufasa. He trained tirelessly, honing his skills in hunting and fighting, knowing that one day he would have to stand tall beside his brother and defend their home. Through these challenges, Mufasa and Jedi learned that acceptance was not something that could be demanded. It was something that had to be earned through courage, loyalty, and unwavering determination. They realized that they could not control what others thought of them, but they could control how they responded. And so, they pushed themselves harder, striving to be the best versions of themselves, not just for their pride, but for each other. Their bond grew even stronger, and they vowed to face whatever challenges lay ahead together. One fateful day, the peace of the kingdom of Zamani was shattered by the arrival of a group of black lions. These lions, with their dark, menacing coats and piercing yellow eyes, came from a distant land and were known for their ferocity and cunning. They challenged the pride's dominance, seeking to take over their territory and resources. The pride was thrown into turmoil, and the elders knew that a confrontation was inevitable. Mufasa and Jedi, now young adults, were called upon to defend their home and their family. The battle that followed was fierce and unforgiving. Mufasa and Jedi fought side by side, their strength and coordination a testament to the bond they shared. But the black lions were relentless, their attacks brutal and calculated. Mufasa, with his powerful roar and mighty claws, led the charge, but even he was pushed to his limits. Jedi, smaller but quicker, darted through the battlefield, using his speed and agility to outmaneuver their enemies. As the battle raged on, the two brothers found themselves separated, each facing overwhelming odds. In a moment of desperation, Mufasa faced a choice: continue fighting to ensure his survival, or risk everything to save Jedi, who was cornered by 3 black lions. Without hesitation, Mufasa charged to his brother's aid, his roar echoing across the savannah. Together they fought off the attackers, their bond and loyalty to each other, giving them the strength they needed to survive. The battle ended with the Pride victorious, but the cost was great. Many were wounded, and the scars of the conflict would remain with them forever. But through it all, Mufasa and Jedi emerged as heroes, their bond unbroken and their loyalty to each other stronger than ever. In the aftermath of the battle, the elders of the Pride gathered to discuss the future. The time had come to choose a new leader, and it was clear that both Mufasa and Jedi had proven themselves worthy. However, the elders decided that they must undergo one final test to determine who would become the next Lion King. This test would not be an ordinary challenge. It would be a journey of great danger and uncertainty, a journey that would test their courage, wisdom, and strength like never before. The test involved a journey to the distant lands beyond the kingdom of Zamani, to a place known as the Shadowlands. The Shadowlands were a treacherous and unforgiving territory, filled with dangers both seen and unseen. It was a place where the bravest of lions had gone, and few had returned. Mufasa and Jedi knew that this journey would be the ultimate test of their bond and their ability to lead. They prepared themselves mentally and physically, knowing that they would need every ounce of strength and courage to succeed. On the day of their departure, the Pride gathered to see them off. The lionesses, the elders, and the young cubs all watched as Mufasa and Jedi stood at the edge of their homeland, looking out towards the distant horizon. Their mothers, Asali and Zuri, stood close by, their eyes filled with pride and worry. "Remember," Eshi said, her voice firm but gentle, "the circle of life is always with you. Trust in yourselves and in each other, and you will find your way back home." With those words, Mufasa and Jedi set off on their journey, leaving behind the safety of their home and stepping into the unknown. Mufasa and Jedi ventured into the vast wilderness, leaving behind the familiar landscapes of Zamani. The sun was still rising, casting long shadows across the savannah as they traveled farther from home. Their path led them through wide-open grasslands, where the golden grasses swayed gently in the breeze. The two brothers walked side by side, their eyes sharp and ears alert, ready for whatever lay ahead. They knew that the Shadowlands were not a place for the faint-hearted, and the stories they had heard about the dangers there filled their minds. But they were determined to face the test, knowing that their future depended on it. As the day wore on, they entered a dense forest, where the sunlight barely penetrated the thick canopy of leaves above. The air was cool and damp, filled with the earthy scent of moss and decaying leaves. Strange sounds echoed through the trees: rustling leaves, the distant call of birds, and the occasional snap of a twig. Mufasa and Jedi moved cautiously, their muscles tense and ready for action. Suddenly, they heard a rustling in the bushes ahead. Mufasa signaled for Jedi to stay back as he slowly approached the source of the sound. To their surprise, they found a small elderly tortoise trying to flip itself over after falling onto its back. It looked up at Mufasa with wise, old eyes and said, "Ah, young travelers, it's been many seasons since I've seen lions in this part of the forest. I assume you are on a journey? Mufasa gently helped the tortoise back onto its feet, and it nodded in gratitude. We are on a test to prove ourselves as leaders, Jedi replied, stepping forward. The tortoise chuckled, its voice raspy but kind. Leadership is not just about strength, young ones. It is about wisdom, compassion, and understanding. Remember this as you continue on your path. The brothers thanked the tortoise for its advice and continued their journey, the old creature's words echoing in their minds. As they emerged from the forest, they were greeted by the sight of towering mountains in the distance, their peaks shrouded in mist. The path ahead would be difficult, but Mufasa and Jedi pressed on, their resolve unshaken. The mountains loomed larger as they approached, and soon they found themselves at the base of a steep, rocky slope. The ground was uneven, and the air grew colder with each step. The climb was treacherous, with loose rocks and narrow ledges, but Mufasa and Jedi worked together, carefully navigating the dangerous terrain. They knew that turning back was not an option. They had to reach the other side of the mountains to continue their journey. After days of climbing, Mufasa and Jedi finally reached the summit of the mountains. The view from the top was breathtaking. They could see the entire kingdom of Zamani spread out below them, a patchwork of golden grasslands, dense forests, and sparkling rivers. But their destination lay ahead, beyond the mountains, in the mysterious Shadowlands. As they began their descent, the landscape changed drastically. The vibrant colors of the kingdom were replaced by barren, rocky terrain. The air was heavy, and a sense of foreboding hung over the land. The Shadowlands were as dangerous as the stories had told, and the brothers knew they had to stay vigilant. As they ventured deeper into the Shadowlands, they came upon a dark cave, the entrance framed by jagged rocks. The air inside was thick with the scent of damp earth and something else, something ancient and powerful. Mufasa and Jedi exchanged a glance, knowing that this was where their final challenge awaited them. They stepped into the cave, their eyes adjusting to the dim light. The cave was vast, its walls lined with strange markings and symbols that seemed to tell a story of their own. At the far end of the cave, a large lion stood, his coat as black as night, and his eyes glowing with a fierce intensity. The other must turn back. Mufasa and Jedi stood tall, side by side, refusing to be intimidated. We came here together, and we will face this challenge together, Mufasa declared, his voice steady. Sakuru narrowed his eyes, as if considering their words. Sakuru then posed a riddle, one that required both wisdom and insight to solve. What is the one thing that grows stronger the more you give it away, yet disappears if you keep it for yourself? Mufasa and Jedi exchanged a glance, their minds racing. The cave was silent except for the steady drip of water echoing in the distance. After a moment, Jedi spoke up, his voice quiet but sure. It is loyalty. The more you give it, the stronger it becomes. But if you keep it for yourself, it withers away. Sakuru's gaze softened, and a faint smile played at the corners of his mouth. You have answered wisely, he said, stepping aside to reveal a hidden passage that led deeper into the cave. Mufasa and Jedi walked through the passage, their hearts pounding with anticipation. They had proven their loyalty to each other and passed the Guardian's test. The passage opened into a vast chamber where a pool of crystal-clear water lay at its center. The walls of the chamber were adorned with carvings of ancient lions, their faces proud and noble. Mufasa and Jedi approached the pool, and as they looked into its depths, they saw visions of their future. Mufasa as a strong and wise king, and Jedi as his trusted advisor and brother in arms. They knew that their journey was not yet over, but they had proven themselves worthy of the challenge. With their final challenge behind them, Mufasa and Jedi began the long journey back to the kingdom of Zamani. The path through the Shadowlands was no less treacherous, but the brothers moved with a new sense of purpose. They had faced their fears and proven their loyalty to each other, and now they were ready to return home as true leaders. As they crossed the mountains once more, the landscape slowly began to change. The barren, rocky terrain gave way to lush forests and golden grasslands, and the air grew warmer and more familiar. The kingdom of Zamani was welcoming them back, and the brothers felt a sense of belonging that they had never felt before. When they finally reached the borders of their homeland, they were greeted by the pride with cheers and roars of celebration. The lionesses, the elders, and the young cubs all gathered around them, their eyes filled with admiration and respect. Asali and Zuri rushed forward to embrace their sons, their faces wet with tears of joy. "We knew you would return," Asali said, her voice trembling with emotion. "You have made us so proud." Mufasa and Jedi smiled, their hearts full of love for their family and their pride. They had returned not just as brothers, but as leaders who had earned their place in the circle of life. The elders of the pride held a ceremony to honor Mufasa and Jedi's journey. The entire pride gathered around the ancient baobab tree, its roots deep and strong, symbolizing the enduring strength of their community. Rafiki, the wise old baboon, presided over the ceremony, his staff adorned with colorful beads and feathers. Today, we celebrate not just the return of our brave lions, but the bond that has brought them here, Rafiki announced, his voice carrying across the savannah. Mufasa and Jedi have proven themselves to be true leaders, and their loyalty to each other is an example for us all. As the ceremony came to a close, the elders declared Mufasa as the new Lion King. He stood tall before the pride, his golden mane catching the light of the setting sun. Jedi stood by his side, his dark coat gleaming with pride. "I accept this responsibility with honor," Mufasa said, his voice strong and steady. "But I could not have done this without my brother, Jedi. Together, we will lead our pride with strength, wisdom, and compassion." The pride roared in approval, their voices echoing across the land. Mufasa and Jedi had proven that true leadership was not about standing alone, but about standing together. As the sun set over the kingdom of Zamani, Mufasa and Jedi looked out over their homeland, the land they had fought so hard to protect. The circle of life continued to turn, and they knew that their journey was far from over. But whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together as brothers, as leaders, and as guardians of the circle of life.